Okay, so good evening, everyone, and welcome to Informed Voices Media Literacy webinar series. My name is Shalala Mehmedli, and I'm an ELT and media education specialist from Azerbaijan. Um, it's a real pleasure to see educators and something's wrong with the voice. No? It's a real pleasure to see educators and media literacy advocates from so many countries joining us tonight. Among them are Azerbaijan, Georgia, Central Asian countries, India, Pakistan. And this is already our fifth webinar in this series. And today's session is especially important because we are moving from awareness to action, not only learning how manipulation works, but how we can teach others to recognize and resist it. And we live in a world where information spreads faster than truth, and where emotional, persuasive, and misleading messages can influence public opinion, elections, and even classroom thinking. So tonight is about building power, practical power, the power to question, to verify, and to teach critical thinking. And I'm delighted to be co-hosting this session with my wonderful colleague and media literacy educator from Hungary, Gabriela Pastohe. Gabi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Shalala. Hello, everyone, and welcome from Hungary. My name is Gabriella Pásztory, and I am an English and media literacy teacher. This webinar series is very special to us because it brings together educators from different cultures who all face the same challenge. How do we help learners navigate a world full of misinformation, manipulation, and persuasive media? Today's topic, From Awareness to Action, is about moving beyond just identifying fake news and actually equipping learners with the tools to challenge it, question it, and respond responsibly. And we are extremely lucky to be guided today by an international expert who has worked with teachers and learners across the world. So today, we are joined by Linda Ruas, a CELTA trainer and a British Council consultant based in the United Kingdom. Linda has worked in the UK, Brazil, Japan, and Guinea-Bissau, training teachers and designing programs that connect language education with critical thinking, global citizenship, and media awareness. Her work focuses on helping teachers turn complex topics like manipulation, bias, and persuasion into classroom-ready activities that truly engage learners. Linda, it's an honor to have you with us. Thank you for joining the Informed Voices community.
Thank you so much, both Shalala and Gabi, and it's a great honor to be joining you today. This is excellent with all people from all these different countries. This is amazing. There's another thing I wanted to point out just before we start, that I don't know if you're members of IATEFL, the International Association of Teachers of English as a foreign language, but there are lots of special interest groups, and my one is the Global Issues Special Interest Group, and I've been a member of that for many years now. I was the coordinator at one point, still a member now, and what we do is deal with things like fake news and modern life and how it affects our English teaching and how we can fight against this sort of thing and help people think for themselves in the face of all these crazy things that are going on in the world, like climate crisis, for example. Yeah. Yes, and fake information, all of these things. So if you want more information, then maybe join the IATEFL Global Issues Special Interest Group, because it's a community of teachers who come together and really believe in working with these things. So yes, I'm British. I've worked in several other countries, but neither of your countries, I'm afraid, not Hungary nor Azerbaijan. But let's have a look now at the topic for today. I'm going to share my slides. And hang on 1 second. Right, I just need to change my display settings. Okay, so this is my title, From Awareness to Action, Teaching Others to Spot Manipulation. And this, I think, is what it's all about, isn't it? Because if we can spot manipulation, fine for us, what about everybody else? So I'm going to we're going to talk together maybe about what media literacy and critical thinking are and the need for them. Discuss the English teachers' responsibility or not. So if you feel that English teachers are not responsible for these areas, then please say so. We can have a little discussion in the chat of developing media literacy and critical thinking. And specifically, I think maybe the English teachers' responsibility, because this is where people get exposure to lots of information around the world and internationally. So it could be even more dangerous. And to look at relevant examples of teaching English resources and activities and others. The teaching English resources, I don't know if you know, are from the British Council, and I'm going to share some of these excellent resources and the website that you can find them on. So first, I want to get you involved, and I would like to ask you what you think these things are. What is media literacy? I've got 3 definitions on the slide, A, B, or C. So could you put in the chat 1, A, B, or C? And also, what is critical thinking? 3 definitions there again, A, B, and C. What do you think? Okay, could we have a few other people? Thank you very much, Gabby, for putting your answers. Anybody else? Do you agree? Do you not agree? Anybody else here? Okay, thank you, everybody. Yes, okay. And again, it's a bit of a trick question, isn't it? Because yes, media literacy could have people thinking that it just means reading a lot of newspapers. Of course not. Being an expert in usual social media. Yeah, of course, we talk a lot about social media more than about media in general, but this is not what media literacy is. It's C, understanding what messages in all types of media really mean. So it's about understanding under this surface value. It's not just something at the beginning. Yes, and somebody put B and C can be part, it's not complete. It's not about being an expert in using lots of social media, actually, is it? It's more about understanding what the message means. But you're right, to understand it, we probably have to use it. Yeah. And then critical thinking. Yes, it's nothing to do with being critical or criticizing people. It's about thinking critically so that we have this value judgment and making choices with what we're thinking about. It is actually to be thinking a lot. You can't do critical thinking without thinking a lot, but it's far more than that, isn't it? It's to see, making informed and sensible choices. Can you keep mute? Thank you very much. Informed and sensible choices by looking at and thinking about all the evidence, not just taking things at face value. And it's easy to do that, isn't it? Sometimes take something at face value. We do it all the time. Something pops up on, for example, Facebook, and we say, oh, terrible, shocking, click, share it, and we don't think enough about it. And this is the sort of thing that everybody has done at some point. We need to be a lot more critical about that and a lot more aware. So great, good start. Are we responsible though? So do you actually think, yes or no, that it's the English teacher's responsibility to develop media literacy and critical thinking in our learners? What do you think, yes or no? Are we only responsible for teaching grammar? Or more than that? Should we be educators as well as teachers? Are we just preparing people for their exams? Or for more than that, for their future? Okay, so yes, a shared responsibility. Sharing with who, Gabby? Are we sharing that with? Okay, yes, sharing it to Gabby. Your comments are just going into the waiting room at the moment. So if you change your thing so they come into the main chat. Yeah, I agree. We are doing this in a shared way, but we don't know what the parents are doing at home often, do we? We don't know what other teachers are doing. So if we can do our part, then maybe other teachers can do it as well. And again, we're working on language, aren't we? We're working on the international languages as well. So I think really it's a very big responsibility. And why? Or why not? Do you have any other reasons that you can add in the chat? While you're doing that, let's have a look at these two visuals I've got on the slide. Fakebook. Are you all on Fakebook? And I'm sure you've read a lot about this, in that so many things that are shared on Facebook are fake. Fake news. It's a big topic of news in itself, isn't it? And we have a world leader who says everything is fake news at the moment, and without even checking, which seems a bit extreme. So we have got to think about this and not pass on all the fakeness. And another little visual there about dinosaurs being real. Are they real? Yeah. Have they been threatening the army? Are they all of these things? These are things that have been published. And there are different reasons for publishing crazy things like this. We just need to think a bit more critically. One thing that's going to help us is this British Council Teaching English website. I don't know if you know the website already. Some of you will have seen it, some of you not. There are an enormous amount of resources in this website, in all the drop-down menus at the top. And you can use that search button. Have a look at the arrow there at the top. You can get it on your phones and on your laptop, slightly different version. Try the search button with the magnifying glass. Put in media literacy or critical thinking, and you'll find quite a few resources. Of course, you can use it for anything else that you're researching or working with. But I wanted to share a few of these resources with you. This one here, the first one is an article, and there are lots of resources of different types. They all suit different types of teachers. Sometimes you want to read, sometimes you want to listen, sometimes you want to take part or participate. This is one of the articles. There's the link, and it's about English teaching in the post-truth era that Shalala mentioned here. And if you look on the right there at the bottom, you can see some of the article that I've put here about fact checking, that we have to, about what are actual facts or not. Yeah, no source material at all, completely made up things. Fake stories, how do we know that they're fake? Other ideas like these websites that have been actually totally invented, and April Fool's jokes, satirical news sites that, of course, play their role in society, but we don't want to be led in by them. So a little bit of answers now to questions. The title there about post-truth. So 3 questions. What is the post-truth era? Why is it post-truth? And how can we help learners to find the truth? Would anybody like to put their answer in the chat? Or to unmute briefly to tell us? If you put your hand up, we can see that you're waiting to talk. You're very welcome to look up these resources as I'm going through them as well. Anybody with an idea? What is the post-truth era then? Why are we in post-truth now? What does it actually mean? What happened to make it post-truth so that it's not truth anymore? Any ideas? Nobody. Okay. So think about that. If you'd like to put some comments in the chat later, you're very welcome to. Or look it up. If you Google post-truth, what does it say? Okay, next one. Okay, we have an excellent lesson plan here. So one of the best resources on the Teaching English website is these lesson plans. And you can take them and use them in class, which is excellent. And this one is one about fake news. So questions before we start here. Which websites and news sources do your learners use? How reliable and how truthful are they? And how can we help guide them? Now, I teach adult ESOL learners, mainly asylum seekers and refugees in a college in London. And I have seen them read the most awful websites and news sites. I don't know if you know much about the UK press, but we have right-wing newspapers, left-wing newspapers. We have sensible newspapers and ridiculously stupid newspapers, which everybody knows only publish lies, basically, and gossip about celebrities. So you have to know which your newspaper is before you read it. Do you have that in your countries? Does everybody know what the fame is for the websites? We have one newspaper called the Daily Mail, which has more untruths than truths in it. And lots of racist comments, hurtful comments. It's terrible what are published. I don't know why they're published. Learners read them. These are the sorts of newspapers which are left in, I don't know, fast food shops, fish and chip shops, and people read them while they're waiting, and people pick up all this rubbish that is not actually true. So your learners use Gemini and AI. Is that a good thing? Yeah. Yeah, and the algorithm brings up stuff on their threads. You're right. This could be really dangerous, can't it? So nobody is checking. Yeah. AI, Gemini, ChatGPT, they always try to tell us what we want to hear unless we set them up to challenge us critically, for example. Okay, and and we are the targets nowadays, aren't we? We're open to anybody telling us something. How do we know if it's true? Okay, so here is a lesson that we can do with students and help. Yeah, just because it's online doesn't mean it's more true or less true, does it? Salman over Aigun? I don't know. What do you think? Yeah, there's so much rubbish online. Even about English grammar, I found lots of people finding untruths about English grammar. Now, who would put that? Don't know. Let's have a look at this lesson plan for learners. And this is for secondary school learners. And I want to try this out on you as well. One of these is true. One of these is fake. So we have the tree octopus and the octopus tree. You can look them up. You can Google them. You can find out as much about them if you like. You can read this information here about their habitat, about their characteristics, and about their history. Which one do you think? From all your research, anybody going to Google them? Which one do you think is true? Which one do you think is false? Are you using your critical thinking together with your research skills, or just taking the one that you assume to be fake, first of all? Any ideas? Yeah, Shalala said there are no wrong answers. There are actually wrong answers on this because one of them is true, one of them is false, but we're just seeing. And this is like in a lesson. So you would ask this to your students and you'd say, right, let's have a look. Which is true? Which is fake? Yeah. Which one is made up? If you look them up on Google, you will find about both of them. But one of them was invented, and it was invented, I think, around 10 years ago or so, to test out humans and the internet. to check how far you can go with lies. Okay, so there is a website for both of these. So, so you are looking them up. Octopus paxarbolis, lovely. Okay, the tree octopus is real, is it? That's the fake one. Okay, but they created the website for it, so it looks true, and they're trying to take you in. Okay, very interesting, actually. So what we need to do is to work with students on this to see how much they know, how much they can think, how much they get dragged down these different lines of thought. And here is a series of questions. Okay, so there are 5 key questions that we can apply to all information. Where, when, who, what, and how. Right, so you've got to look at and we've got to look at all of these, not just one at a time. Where does the information come from, first of all? So we look at the URL, the address. Does it look familiar? Does it look credible? When you get something like the British Council, then that is a credible address. But you could have a fake British Council email website as well, couldn't you? And I'm sure there are some as well. So you've got to be familiar with the proper one and anything fake. Look at the endings of it. Look at the country it comes from, for example. When was the post put online? What's the date? Is it a real date? Is the post recent? So you've got to check that as well. So people often post, repost and share things that were maybe something from 10, 15 years ago, and people just haven't checked the date on them. Who created the information? So who wrote it? Is it somebody who's a doctor? Is it somebody famous? Is it somebody even saying that it's somebody famous, but it wasn't? Who took the photo? Is it a reputable photo agency? What does the post or the website look like? What about the layout? Is it well presented, well organized? Are there any spelling mistakes, for example? And we find so many spelling mistakes online, mainly on fake websites. And then how do you know for certain that it's true? So you need to look back at the content again. Any information look unlikely or too good to be true or too amazing to be true. And if we look back at that tree octopus is too amazing to be true. An octopus tree, yes, okay. A tree that extends like an octopus, yes. But an octopus that lives in a tree, no. So if you look that up and look at the history of it, you can see that it was invented to take people through that as a lesson to see what's actually going on and to guide people to be aware of all these things. The third resource then is a podcast. Okay, so these different types of resources, podcasts are brilliant because you can just download them and go off and do your housework, driving, go on a bus somewhere. Brilliant. This one is called What is Critical Thinking and how can we integrate it into English language teaching? A few questions. How can you integrate critical thinking into your teaching? Or if you haven't so far, how would you? That's question 1. Number 2, what have you done so far to integrate it into your teaching? Anything? Okay. Anybody would like to suggest anything in the chat? Okay, one simple thing that you can do. Yeah, question their likes and dislikes. Oh, interesting. So does it mean that you are challenging them and saying they shouldn't like and dislike things? What do you mean by question their likes and dislikes? Okay, so why? Getting the reason. What's your favourite colour? Red. Why red? Good. So getting them to justify it and to think, why do they have these biases or favourites? Great. Does this look familiar to you? Yes. Okay, good. Oh, lovely. Text with fake information. And then they have to debug them. Excellent. By referring to more than one source. Okay, good. So they're looking up different sources. Really nice. Students' own ideas about the topic, yes. The question is, where are they getting those ideas from? And people are very influenced, aren't they, by Twitter, by Facebook, by all these things that people see online, by influencers, which by the nature of their title are there to influence people. Yes, but predicting before a text, what do you think about it first? Then have a look. Then you're more likely to align. Spotify podcasts can be effective, can be. Lots of them are fake as well. How do you know if they're fake or not? We just do not know nowadays. True or false questions from a text, yes. And then they're thinking together, maybe, why do they think? What evidence can they find? And analysing texts, yes. Okay, great. It's also a good idea to get them to read between the lines, ask questions that are not clearly stated, and get them to find the evidence. Great. Okay, so we need to do as much as we can, don't we, for this? And then if you'd like a little video, then have a look at this. This is a lovely video about primary school students, teaching them to think. Now, I think when I was at school a long, long time ago, I feel I was never taught to think. I think I was taught to learn facts, to regurgitate facts, to pass exams by learning all these facts and stuffing my brain full. But I only think I began to think, I think not even at university, I think only on my master's I began to think, because that's when people started questioning, why? No, that's wrong. That's rubbish. And before that, I was just regurgitating other things that I'd read. It's dangerous nowadays because the world has changed. So we need to teach even primary school learners that they need to think and work out things. Parents have always done this, hopefully. Education systems haven't always done this, but I really think education systems are getting a lot better at this as well. And yeah, thank goodness we're moving in the right direction. Yes, so this is a video of the relative size of countries. And my question is, how would you build that light bulb moment with primary learners that the countries of the world cannot be represented accurately on a flat piece of paper, which is what a map or an atlas is, isn't it? So, for example, on traditional maps, we have a huge United States, a huge Europe, especially Western Europe, and we have quite a small Africa, the whole continent. Whereas in reality, Africa is much, much bigger than small Western Europe and small United States. Mexico is huge. It spans the equator. Indonesia is huge, all those islands, but because they span the equator, when you stuff it together and put it on a piece of paper, you've got to sacrifice something, either the relative size or the dimension. And in the past, they've sacrificed the dimension, probably because the countries that wanted to look big were those in control, weren't they? So this, again, is a political thing, isn't it? So it's geography related to politics. Have a look at that video afterwards. It only takes 9 minutes, and it's a lovely way of the teacher getting the kids, young kids, how old are they, 9, 8, 9, 10, to look at it and think about it, and think about this really important question, which is really important for geopolitics and for respecting everybody everywhere in the world. You used that and you learnt a lot from the students. Excellent. And this is great, isn't it? Learning from our students as well. Excellent. Okay, so our responsibility. You've been mentioning things in the chat about taking text from social media. Yeah, good idea to take some of the rubbish ones, show them in class, check them, go through it, get students to check in pairs, to bring things in. Yeah, but we've got to go through these maybe 6 stages. Take a closer look. Don't just superficially skim over it and think, oh yeah, that's good. Share it. Look beyond the headline. So it's not just the headline, it's what comes later. It could have a perfectly reasonable headline and loads of rubbish behind that. They could be filtering in lots of strange, unusual, wrong facts. Check other sources. Of course, we can do that now with our magic phones. We can check as many sources as we like. And if it's the same sort of news in several different sources, then it's much more likely to be true. Check the facts, look up a fact check. Check your biases. Now, do you want to believe it because you like that idea? Do you want to not believe it because you don't like that idea? If you saw the results of the education exams in your whole country, and it showed that females have outperformed males by 300%, would you think, if that's something you want to believe, and you say, oh, brilliant, I love that idea, great, share it straight away? And we are all ruled sometimes by our biases, aren't we? Just because we want to believe something doesn't mean it's true. And then the last one, number 6, is it a joke? Because we do have jokes. At the bottom there is something about Donald Trump scaring a group of school children. And I think that was actually an April Fool's joke that somebody posted. Wasn't true at all. And then if you fact check it, you'll find out that it wasn't true. April Fool's Day, April the 1st, we post a lot of jokes. And it's a really nice thing, a nice little critical thinking idea. But people have to realise that they're jokes as well. On the right here, we have some fact-checking sites. Snopes, PolitiFact, Fact Check, BBC Reality Check. Yeah, not everything on the BBC or Channel 4 are true. They have to check their facts as well as everybody else. And a reverse image search. So you're not just sharing the image, you can reverse image check as well. Lots of good things to check and to teach our learners to check. Couple of little stories here that I did with my class. This was a class of adults, and it was at the time when these news items were okay, so we've got a question in the chat. Sometimes we find the data with a citation, but they're wrong. How to handle that? Yeah, well, this is the question, isn't it? I would say check other sources. Look up in some of those fact-checking sites that I showed just now. Look up the quote, the citation in Google and see where it comes out. Okay, so have a look, and we'll have a look at why these are real or fake. This devastating hurricane, the first Category 6 storm ever. Yeah. I don't know if you heard about number 2, this Grenfell Tower fire in London. And there were an amazing number of stories afterwards about people who died from it. It was a terrible, terrible tragedy, but people, added on to that. What about number 3? Storm in Texas, and a Canadian imam closed his mosque's doors to Christian victims. Is that something you would like to believe or like to not believe? It's interesting, isn't it? And then a little girl, this Frida Sofia, was trapped in a deadly earthquake in Mexico. And then politics, always politics. Number 5, we had a guy called Jeremy Corbyn, who was the leader of the Labour Party. And there were loads of stories going around about, and pictures that he had to do his paperwork on the floor of a train because there were no seats. Which of these do you think might be fake? Can you put some numbers in the chat? Are you suspicious of any of them yet? Any of them fake? Number 4, you think? Why? It's just the name of a girl. Yeah. Number 2. Okay, why? Does it sound too much to be true? So again, we're thinking of what we think might be true. We can check through logic as well. You're right. Let's have a look. 3 and 2. Okay, but again, your belief comes into it, what you want to believe. So they're all false apart from the last one. Number 1, if you happen to know Category 6 hurricanes don't exist. You can't suddenly invent them. Why would people believe that? Probably because they want to. Number 2, yes, 71 people died, which was terrible. But all these stories were invented afterwards to try to make it seem worse than it was. So the story about babies dying, 42 bodies in one room, that was just simply not true. And false. Now, why would somebody invent that? That the imam closed the doors of the mosque. He'd never even been to Texas, this particular imam. So we need to think about the reasons why, don't we? And then this number 4, that Frida Sofia, little girl in a Mexican earthquake, never existed. It was just made up. And it must have been a journalist who wanted to make up something personal so people would identify with it more. Maybe so they'd get more help. We don't know, do we? And then the political one, number 5, was actually true, but they had the CCTV footage that showed that there were seats on the train, but this was later proved to be false. All of these backwards and forward things to try to show politicians up in a bad light. Why do people want to do that? It's very complicated, isn't it? People want to impress people sometimes. People want to get more empathy sometimes. People want to feed in ideas against particular religions to stoke that anti-Islam rhetoric, for example. People want to become more personal and to think about individuals instead of a big tragedy. And of course, people want to influence people politically all the time. Lots of uses of fake news around the world. I'm sure you've seen some of them. Which one is the most dangerous, do you think? Control? Political propaganda? Religious propaganda? Ignorance? Or jokes? So let's see in the chat. Can you put some letters that you think are the most dangerous? See, religious propaganda is terribly dangerous, isn't it? And people don't often notice, do they? Because it's hidden in a story which could be believable. But political propaganda is just as dangerous, I think, because the wrong party gets in, the wrong people get control. Trying to control people, which is what a lot of fake news is. Ignorance, we've got to root this out, haven't we? A lot of people share things because of ignorance. It's not really an excuse nowadays because we can find out, we've got access to lots of things. And jokes, yeah. 1st of April, okay. But we don't want to use jokes that widely, do we? That could be misinterpreted and be, propaganda for politics, religious nature or control. We've got to be aware of this, though. And also of these visual representations. So, the graph on the left. Which graph about the peanuts on the left, which graph shows that the crop went down most? The one on the left or the one on the right? So which graph of the 2 peanut ones shows that the yield went down most? The one on the left or the one on the right? So just put left or right in the chat. The left one? Yes, do you agree, all of you? Ha! I got you there. Because did you look at the actual numbers? It's exactly the same. So look at the numbers and look at the axes, okay? So in the axis of the left one, these are exactly the same. They're showing exactly the same thing. But the axis on the left is going down bit by bit. The axis on the right is going down a lot. So the actual drop in yield looks smaller. Just trying to hoodwink us, isn't it? And this is what scientists do all the time. This is what politicians do all the time. They want to show us, oh, it's really going down. But when you look at the actual numbers, you can show anything really, can't you? Depending on what you want to say. We've got to be the clever ones in looking at it, thinking about it and thinking, hang on a minute. No, it's only gone down a tiny bit. Look, 400 out of 6,000, that's a tiny percentage. If you look at the two graphs on the right about the days of the freezing temperatures, so you're going to get this now, aren't you? So days of, freezing temperatures, which one shows that there are a lot more days of freezing temperatures? The one on the left or the one on the right? Okay, you're not going to say anything now because you know the answer is that they are exactly the same. Yes. So you're right. It's to show the statistics as more dramatic, isn't it? And it depends on what you want to show. So they are both, 80, what is it, 82 to 84 or something. Very few, just a couple of days difference. But the axis on the right starts at 0 and the axis on the left doesn't start until 80. Not surprising, it's going to show things differently. We need to show our students so they don't get misled visually by these things. What about pictures as well then? So this is what politicians use a lot, isn't it? To show their point. And you're right, Shalala, to trigger emotions. Yes, very powerful. So here we have another ex-Prime Minister of the UK, Theresa May, lovely lady. But is she very popular or not? If you look at the picture on the left, loads of people supporting her, hundreds of them there, like loads and loads of people. She's talking to a big crowd. Great. If you back off and take the picture there, you can see that there's just a few people standing around her. Where are all the rest? Not there. So sometimes with a picture, we just have to stand back a little bit. Okay. You're right. It's like an iceberg, isn't it? Yes. So critical thinking applies to, and media literacy applies not just to language. It's to thinking about everything, isn't it? It's thinking about numbers, thinking about politics, thinking about why people might want to change our mind. So critical literacy, digital literacy, knowing what the graph shows, number literacy, news literacy, knowing about your websites, knowing about the different newspapers, knowing where they're from, what they're saying, what their underlying message is, and why. All information is not created equal. That's right, it's true. And there's a nice news literacy project link at the bottom, which has lots and lots, it's from the States, lots and lots of ideas you can use in class. Things like using Checkology, which is a nice idea. Have a look at that later. And then before we finish, I've got some more activities for class. I've got 5 different activities here that you can do and try. Some of you have mentioned some of these things already. What about number 1, looking at newspapers in class, analysing the photos and the graphs? How might they be trying to manipulate us? Yeah. I don't know if you're allowed to do these things in all your classes. You might not be allowed to say things against the government or say things against the newspapers, but in your own context, you need to know what you're allowed to do. And if you're not allowed to talk about the politics, the newspapers, for example, then do something, take it away from that and do something more about, I don't know, the numbers of freezing days or the numbers of penguins or something which is not so emotive or political. Number 2, guide learners to read between the lines. So what is this author actually really saying and why? Who do you think wrote this text? Why did they write it? You could get groups to do writing practice and they can each write 1 true article and 1 fake article. They can do some research. Lovely to research this as well. Not just copy and paste. They need to do some writing themselves. Then they get the other groups to read. You can maybe pin or stick all the articles up to the wall of the classroom. everyone goes around reading them and guessing which is which, and the most important thing, why. You can bring learners' other languages into class. For example, a pair of students translate something into English, then they swap it and the others translate it back. And then you can compare. So translation, when you're doing translation, you always impose something of what you believe onto the text. Maybe if you can go one way or the other, then you go one way. Then if you're translating it back, it will be different. Where do you get those differences from and why? And which one is the accurate one? Is there one that's accurate? Which one is more accurate? And then number 5 is getting learners to do surveys or research on the news sources of family and friends. So they can do a survey for homework, for example, asking everybody what they read and why. Useful. And or guessing which is fake and true. And this can be expanding from your classroom into learners, families, friends, neighbours, for example, and expanding this awareness to raise the awareness of the wider public. What else can we do? Any other ideas? Okay, thank you so much for coming. And are there any questions that we can discuss now? Thank you all very much for all your participation in the chat. It's been great.
Yes, thank you so much, dear Linda, for this insightful presentation. And we urge the audience to ask their questions, whether in the chat or alternatively, they can unmute themselves and ask their questions. And we also have prepared some questions for you.
Oh,
Dear Gabi?
okay. Yes.
Okay, so Linda, many teachers say they understand what misinformation is, but they struggle to teach it in a practical way. What is one strategy you recommend for turning media literacy theory into classroom action?
Okay, well, very good for these people if they understand what manipulation is? Yeah, because I don't understand it perfectly. I think it's changing all the time. It's something that nobody really understands exactly because people are using AI, people are developing different sorts of artificial intelligence to manipulate people in different ways. So I think this is an ever-moving goalpost, and we can't actually understand exactly what it is. So we need to be on the ball. So I think we need to be up to date. We need to keep checking with other people, with lots of different types of other people. We need to keep reading about things like this, and never stop, because it's not going to stop. Yeah, this post-truth era is not going to stop, is it? Maybe it'll all turn around and go back to a truth era. I don't know. So all of these activities I had on the last slide, I think might help, but it's not that we're going to teach it and then everyone's going to be perfect at it, because the world is changing so much. Do you agree with me?
Absolutely. And I just want to share you this experience that I had in the USA during my Fulbright studies, that we learned different definitions, not just misinformation, but disinformation, malinformation, and all different types that I wasn't aware. That there is even a typology of these fake information, of this group of fake information.
Yes, thank you so much, dear Linda. And I have also one more question. So, what do you think? What kinds of media texts or platforms are most useful for teaching learners to recognize manipulation, misinformation, and all this stuff? New social media advertising or something else?
These are really difficult questions, aren't they? What do you think, first of all?
I think advertising could be interesting.
Yeah, I've always thought that advertising and marketing is quite immoral anyway. This is one of the banned professions for my children when they were growing up. The other two were working in a slaughterhouse for animals and giving parking tickets, only because I didn't want them to get all the bad energy from them. But I didn't want them to learn to manipulate people through advertising to make people buy things that they didn't even know they wanted. Now, I know English advertising and marketing is supposed to be one of the best in the world. Yeah, they are so good, so clever at manipulating people to buy something that they didn't actually know they wanted beforehand. So this is another form, isn't it, of manipulation?
Yes.
And we need to be wise to it. And it's all part of the same huge post-truth era. Where do we draw the line? The more we can educate ourselves and others to think about things like this, the better prepared we will be. But I do not think we can ever be 100% prepared.
Yes. And Gabby,
Yeah.
any questions?
Okay. Yes. Linda, in many countries, people are emotionally attached to certain media narratives. How can teachers help students question manipulation without creating conflict or defensiveness?
Yes, this is a really big problem, isn't it? And you need to know your context to know how far you can go, how far the school allows you to go, how far the politics of the country allows you to go. What you don't want is for you to get the sack, for you to lose your job. You don't want to get learners into trouble either. So you've got to judge this according to your common sense, and maybe if you're new in a school or in a country, even to talk to the other people and not to assume that all countries are the same. Now, in the UK, I think we're quite free to talk about any of these types of manipulation. Yeah, I think we have freedom of speech, some more than others sometimes, but even so, we really, really need to respect people, don't we? We have people coming in our country all the time, different asylum seekers, refugees. They have their own lines that they were brought up to believe. And we can't just demolish everything as soon as they come in the country. It doesn't work that way. People have to be allowed to think what they want to think what they have been brought up to believe, and maybe slowly raise awareness to the fact that not everybody thinks in that way. So I think slowly but surely, no shocks, a lot of respect, a huge amount of respect, maybe is the solution there. Would you agree, Gabby?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a skill, to be able to communicate without being offensive, even if our views are different
You're
on a
right.
certain thing.
And
Yeah.
I think this is the same with all of global issues, that you've got to be really careful. You've got to be very respectful, and you've got to make sure that you and the learners do not get into trouble for talking about it. Thinking is in your head. That's one thing. Yeah. But doing things, speaking openly, criticizing things that you're not allowed to criticize, then that's a different thing altogether, isn't it?
That's very wise. Yes.
Yes. Dear Linda, from your experience across different countries and cultures, what is the biggest mistake that educators make when trying to teach their students how to spot misinformation, disinformation, or manipulation?
Probably if they are part of the manipulation in the first place. So if the teacher is one-sided and biased and doesn't realize they have those biases, and then they're trying to teach the learners to be unbiased, but to come round to their own particular bias, that could be dangerous. It's very dangerous anyway, because we always all have these biases under the surface. And I don't know if you've ever done any training with your unrecognized biases. And we do all these advanced psychological tests. We all do have biases. If you ask people, if you say, oh, the doctor just called, most people have in their mind an image of a male just because it was the doctor. Yeah. And this is because of our culture, because of our past, because of everything that's been fed into us through media, social media, television, news, people we know, for example. And it takes time to change that. All we can do, I think, is to try and be as aware as possible of our own biases and respecting others, and maybe talking about the whole thing openly with students as well, and saying, if you ever see any biases in me, please point them out. Please tell me. Do you think that's
Wonderful.
the solution?
Yes,
Mhm.
wonderful. Thank you so much. And we have a question from the audience. So let me see, where is it?
This one about stop, think, and
Yes,
check.
yes.
Yeah. That looks like a very straightforward thing. Stop, think, check. Yeah. Everything you read, don't just go ahead. Stop, think, and then research and check. Look up something. Or you can divide up the checking between different people in a group, can't you? If you're looking at 6 different mini articles, then one person can look up and check each one, I think. So that's quite a good thing, good way to remember, isn't it?
Yes, thank you so much. And Gabby, do you have any questions?
Well, I was just thinking about, Linda, do you see any improvement in the way we, deal with misinformation in our everyday lives? So do you see new trends emerging that we are more aware, we spot these things more easily in our everyday life?
I don't know. Lots of people around who say, oh, young people are stupid nowadays because they get led by loads of things. I personally happen to think that very, very many young people are really, really bright nowadays and getting better at this sort of thing. I suppose it depends, doesn't it? I am, yeah, very old now, so I think I'm about to stop using social media altogether and just think, oh, I can't be bothered anymore because there are so many new AI things coming up all the time, so many new ways of doing it. It's very difficult to keep on top of it all. But I think we've just got to spread this idea that we've got to. We won't be perfect, any of us individually, but as long as we keep questioning, asking, oh, who wrote that? Looking at the graph, why did they do that? And this question, why, which is one of the biggest ones in all of teaching and all of education, isn't it? Then we won't go too far wrong, hopefully, crossing our fingers.
Yes,
Yes. And dear Gabby, is it
I'm
time
also aware.
to wrap up?
Yes, absolutely. So, Linda, thank you so much for your insights and practical ideas. They remind us that media literacy is not just about information, it's about empowerment. And thank you to everyone who joined us today and to all of you who are working very hard every day to help learners think more critically and independently.
Yes, thank you, Gabby. And once again, thank you, dear Linda, for sharing your expertise with all of us. And I would like to say to thank you to all our participants. By being here today, they are already part of a global movement that believes that education is the strongest defense against manipulation, misinformation, and all these things. So please remember to complete the short quiz so you can receive your certificate of participation. And please do follow the Informed Voices series for our upcoming sessions. And we look forward to seeing you again very soon. So till then, stay curious, stay critical, stay media literate, and keep raising informed voices. Good night, everyone, and see you.
Bye. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.